Hey guys, Wood Craftsman here. So this is kind of a follow-up overview video of the preview videos of the two different pail agitators I built from the shop here. So the first video was for the 2 5-gallon pail agitators, one for the vinyl sealer and one for the high build precat lacquer. The second video was for the 1-gallon pail for the pigmented primer surfacer and high build pigmented precat lacquer. So for the longest time, I've always wanted a couple 5-gallon pail cover agitators to use with my sealer and precat lacquer pumps. And they've always been out of reach in cost. Brand new, they're anywhere from about $650 to $700, depending on what brand you get. Binks makes one, Graco makes one, CA Technologies makes one, and Kremlin makes one. Now, all these, for the most part, are all stainless steel now. 20 years ago plus, they used to just be like a carbon steel or zinc plated for the most part, but with today's more advanced coatings with the acid cured conversion varnishes and pre and post cat lacquers, they're a little bit more corrosive, so a lot of companies have really moved to stainless steel. For me, it just doesn't really, to spend, you know, $1,200 to $1,400 on 2 lids, the payoff just isn't there. What I was after was trying to find something used, and to find something used on eBay, it doesn't exist. It just it's very rare one will pop up on eBay, and when they do, they're worth the price of gold as well. So I always thought, you know, maybe I could build my own, but again, parts, you know, as far as to build one, the little air motor that they use is quite expensive. I looked online to find the gassed air motor that Binks and Kremlin and Graco was using. Looked to be, it was retailing for about $250 to $300 a piece. And I thought, you know, by the time I buy the air motors, you know, I have a lot of money invested just in air motors. Now I need, you know, stainless steel shafts, couplers, propellers. I kind of left it alone. Just recently, I actually had come across an eBay store that actually was selling the little gassed air motor that would actually work for a agitator. I decided that, you know what, I'm going to look at these, but I'm not going to buy them yet. But I thought, how am I actually going to mount these? What am I going to use for a cover? Really to find somebody around here to actually press a cover or to you know, make one out of stainless steel and weld a band on it just really wasn't feasible. And then I got to thinking, it's like, you know, it doesn't have to be stainless steel, but it should be something that's chemically resistant. So I started thinking HDPE. So went back online to eBay and actually ordered 2 of those air motors, and I actually found a sheet of HDPE plastic as well, a piece of 1/2 inch 18 by 24. Then I needed to actually get the shaft couplers. They need to be a 3/8 inch inside diameter. I also needed a couple, I think they're 12-inch stainless steel shafts, and then some mixing props as well. I ordered all of that, and this is what I came up with. So 2 5-gallon pail lids. Look at one here first. So it's an HDPE plastic lid, 1/2 inch thick. I just basically cut this out with a trim router with a circle cutting jig, and took a 3/8 rabbiting bit, cut a rabbet around the inside. So this will actually sit inside a 5-gallon pail, and this lip will hold it up. I ordered a lot of the other parts from McMaster Car and another company called Inco for the props. So these two are pretty much exactly the same. The only difference is the one here in my right hand or on your left has a smaller hole for the pickup tube than the one on my left hand here. This is for the CA Technologies pump, which I spray the high build precat lacquer out of. This one here is for the sealer pump that I spray the Kremlin pump that I spray the fast dry catalyzed vinyl sealer out of. Now, the hole patterns on both of these and on the pickup tube mount and the air motor mount are all interchangeable. They're all drilled the same way. So if I find that I don't want the agitator in the middle, I want the pickup tube in the middle, I can actually just flip them on either one or the other. We're still a little bit of investment to build, but the other thing too is I got the air motors extremely cheap. I think I said I paid like $79.95 a piece, and I bought 2 of them. The stainless steel coupler, it's a 3/8 inside diameter. I think it's about 1 inch long. It's 303 stainless steel. That was around 19 or 20 bucks from McMaster Car. And then this is I believe it's a 12-inch long, 3/16 stainless or 3/16 stainless steel, 3/8 diameter. That was also McMaster Car. That was about $32. And then this stainless steel mixing prop, which is also 3/16 stainless steel with the stainless steel set screw, was around $52. This is from a company called Inco, and the shaft and coupler from McMaster Car. And I ordered some other stuff from them as well, some stainless steel 10/32 bolts for mounting the air motor and the air motor plate and the pickup tube plate, and then also got a stainless steel 10/32 set screw here as well to hold the air motor. Now, to have this stainless steel is probably overkill, but anything that could potentially come in contact with this precat or postcat material should never create an issue with rust or corrosion or anything. This air motor now, this is actually a 1AM model versus a 1UP. The 1AM is actually 10,000 RPM. The 1UP is actually only 6,000 RPM. Typically, Graco, Kremlin, Binks use a 1UP model with 6,000, and it's like 500 RPMs at or 500 RPMs at max torque. This one I think is 650 RPMs at max torque. But again, basically this is going to be running fast enough just to create a very mild vortex within the pail to make sure that everything is in suspension. Now, a production shop would use something like this an 8 or 10 hour, 12-hour production day just to make sure that the material is constantly mixing while you're spraying. For clear coats, it's probably not a really big thing unless you have a lower viscosity, you know, and your sanding agents or your flattening agents fall out quicker. Then agitating is really key. But you know, if you have thicker viscosity material, they don't really fall out of suspension that quick. The idea I wanted here is that when I plug that pump in to start spraying, that it's already starting to mix up for me. You know, it's one of those things. You don't need to do it, but something I decided that I wanted to build it myself and see if it could actually make it work. I'm going to be building a 1-gallon model as well for 1-gallon cans, which essentially is just going to be a much smaller version. It's going to have about a 6.5-inch diameter HDPE disc like this here, and it's going to have a short shaft here. It's only about 6 inches, and then the prop is only about 1.5 inches versus 3, and still have the pickup tube and the air motor. Now, the pickup tube and air motor will probably be both set to the outside just across from each other, unlike this being in center, but it's still going to do the same thing. And that one's actually going to be built for the pump that I use for spraying the precat primer surfacers and the pigmented precat lacquers. So this is not a necessity by any means, but if you're looking to do it, you can do it if you're willing to spend a little bit of money into it. This yellow hose is just an air hose, and actually on the top of both of the pumps, I mounted a needle valve that's in a T that when you plug the quick connector in, one side goes to the air motor on the pump, the other side goes to a needle valve, which this yellow hose will plug into. So this will be tied up parallel with the pickup tube. So when I need to change pails, I can just pick this up, both hoses are together, swap the pail out, stick it back in again, turn the agitator back on. You know, there's no, I don't have any plans on this by any means. It's just basically, it's a 12-inch disc, and I cut a 3/8 lip around the inside. So this is like 11 1/4 inside diameter. It's definitely something within reach if you're willing to put a little bit of resource to it. You know, it's one of those things that if I wouldn't have found the cheap air motors, I probably wouldn't have done this video, and I wouldn't be doing this at all. So. Okay, so here they are set up on the pumps. There's the 2 5-gallon pails, and then you saw a preview video of the 1-gallon can agitator. So first of all, the 5-gallon pail agitators. The whole idea behind this project, as I might have mentioned earlier, is I've always been looking for one, but I never could justify spending the cost of new. And anytime I'd find a used one, they're about the cost of new. So I just decided not to, and then finally, after I had found a couple air motors, I realized I just started piecing it together. But here they are in operation, fully set up. Right now, both of these pumps actually have a 1-gallon can sitting inside the 5-gallon pail. That is kind of the nice thing I liked about putting the pickup tube and the prop close to each other. Now, there is a very small risk, especially as the material in the level, or the material level in the pail gets lower, that if the agitator is running too fast, you actually kind of create some air pockets in your pickup tube. So that's kind of one thing I'm going to have to keep track of, or keep in mind a little bit. But I'm able to actually govern these air motors quite slow, so I was really impressed with that. So I think for the most part, it's going to work out really well. I'm going to show you here in a little bit. I'll bring the camera a little closer and actually show you. I'll show you one of these here as far as how well they actually fit inside a gallon can. Now, originally they were built for a 5-gallon pail, because there are times I might buy a 5-gallon pail of each. Depending on how big a job is, I'll use 5 gallons of it. These are all controlled within the pump itself. So on the top of these carts, I'll show you this one here. There is a T that's welded on the top with a quick disconnect male fitting here. The one side goes to control the pump and the atomizing air itself. The other side goes to control through the needle valve for the agitator. These carts, as I mentioned in a previous video, it was one of the Shop Talk series. These are built by a local welding shop for me. So I'm going to plug each one of these in, show you that they work. You can actually hear them anyways. And you might have actually heard these in the previous video of when I was finishing that wet bar, or the custom cabinetry. So, and that's about all I need for a 1-gallon can. And if the 1-gallon can sat for a little while, where a lot of flattening agents or sanding agents, whichever, have fallen to the bottom, that gentle agitation for a couple minutes actually has everything brought up into suspension. It's actually good to go. And for a 5-gallon pail, might have to run a little bit faster, but you know, it'll still work. So that's the high build precat. Here's the fast dry vinyl sealer. These two air motors were new. However, the one on this pigmented pump was not, and I'll get to that shortly here. But the viscosity on the high build precat lacquer and the fast dry vinyl sealer are very similar, so I would say that they would actually be running at a similar RPM based on the level. Now, somebody might ask about air consumption on these. I don't actually have the specs in my head as far as what the actual air, as far as CFM consumption is, but I will tell you that these air motors are nowhere even close to being loaded to what their real intended capability is. Their max RPM at full torque is 650 RPM, but their unloaded RPM at max PSI and CFM is like 10,000. That was the one thing I was a little bit afraid of, because the typical air motor that's used on the Binks, the Graco, and the Kremlin or Excel were a 1 UP model, and that's a 6,000 RPM no load speed. These are a 1 AM, which are a 10,000 RPM no load speed. But again, they're only running probably maybe a couple hundred RPMs at the most. Now, this one here, this was a later project. As you see, I didn't build this in the previous preview build, or the preview video. I didn't do this because I wanted to see how well this idea worked first, and then I just decided that I could do it if this worked and just scale it down for a 1 gallon can. This air motor is used and it was sold as good working condition, but it took me a little bit to get it to work. It does work, but it's going to need a rebuild kit. So I found the rebuild kit online. I think I'm just going to actually order it and actually rebuild it. But there's a lot of blow-by, so I have a feeling that the vanes are pretty worn out. So rebuild kit consists of new bearings, a rear seal, the gaskets, and vanes, and actually a felt liner for the muffler. So, but it works. So it took a little bit to get it going. Once I ran it up for a little bit, it seemed to run fine. So now these motors are not oilless, but I don't really oil a lot of air motors in the shop here at all. The air sender used in the shop, I'll give that a drop of oil periodically here and there, but what I found out the hard way is, you know, oil in the wood shop when you do finishing can create a lot of issues. So you can get what we call a fisheye. So for as little as these are going to run, I'll probably never oil them. If I do, I might just give them a drop, you know, once in a great while just to make sure they're lubed. They won't take much. They do, if you are interested in building one like this, Gast, which is the manufacturer of these air motors, they do actually make an oilless version, but you're going to pay for it. So so the air consumption of these here, for a little bit I've used it, it really, the compressor doesn't even notice it. It's not like running an air sander excuse me, or an air drill or anything like that. The air consumption at this volume is very low. So all right, so I'm going to bring the camera in and we're going to focus a little bit on these two here. I'm going to talk a little bit as far as the setup, you know, as the prop and the positioning. Then I'll actually talk about this one as well, and that'll be the end of the video. Okay, so I have the pumps primed and everything, but I'm going to take them out just to kind of show you real closely here. So here is the bottom. This is the prop and the pickup tube. I actually just stuck this on here right now just to kind of keep the pail somewhat closed. But if you look at the prop, it's actually a pretty good sized prop. It's a 3-inch mixed flow. Again, this shaft is stainless steel, and this coupler up here is also stainless steel. The vinyl sealer is the same way, exact same setup. The only difference is the mounting bracket here for the pickup tube is different. But the mounting holes that hold the plastic plate and the pickup tube are exact same locations. So for some reason, if I didn't like the agitator in the middle, I want to put off the side and put the pickup tube, whichever, for whatever reason, I couldn't flip-flop it. But I think for this, you know, for what I'm doing here, this will actually work just fine. Okay, so the 1 gallon can one here actually has a unique feature as well. First of all, this pickup tube is not really ideal. A lot of times when I started with this, even when I had just a 1 gallon can of a primer surfacer or pigmented precat, a lot of times I'd take a clamp here and they'd be clamped it to the pickup tube here. There's a little bit more weight here now, so once it's sitting by itself, but what I'll probably end up doing is actually replacing this pickup tube and do one like I did for the Kremlin 1014 I used for waterborne testing. I'll just do a 3/8 nipple that's probably 8 inches long or something like that, and then do a couple fittings and then a chemical hose. But this works right now for a time being. The nice thing about this as well is because of how close the agitator and the pickup tube are next to each other, I'm actually able to put a plastic cup inside there. So if I want to make a really small batch of a catalyzed primer or conversion varnish, I could actually run it through here. So this is just actually solvent here right now. I'm actually just making sure the pump is nice and clean for the next job. This prop is a little hydrofoil prop. It's 1.5 inches in diameter. It's a 3/8 bore. This is a 3/8 inch shaft. It's about 6 inches long. It's 3/16 stainless steel. The prop is 3/16 stainless steel. And then this coupler here is also, I think it's only 303 stainless steel. Everything has stainless steel set screws, so everything that's immersed in the coating is stainless steel. And again, this is HDPE, which is chemically resistant for the wood finishes. So this is kind of a nice feature with them close together. I can actually run a small amount of a post-catalyzed material if I wanted to. And then, like I said, if it wants to wobble, take this clamp and just kind of go around and catch it for the time being. Okay, so that kind of concludes this video of the Pail agitators. Again, it's not something that you have to have by no means, but something that I wanted to do just to kind of make things a little bit better for myself here in the shop. And the really big one here was for the pump for spraying the primer surfacers and the pigmented high build precat lacquers. So that's where the real benefit's going to be. But at the same time, having on the 5-gallon pails is going to be a nice benefit as well. So but yeah, so anyways, that's the end of this video. I hope you guys enjoyed it, and questions and positive comments are welcome. All right, guys, thanks for watching.